Good evening. I'd like to call the City of West Bend Licensing Board for Monday, October 1st, 2018 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have 4 additional items on tonight's agenda. Item number 1 being the approval of minutes from the regular meeting of September 24th, 2018.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item number 2 is applications for an available non-reserve original Class B combination liquor license. Stephanie, do you have anything to say on that? Ian?
So this is similar to what we did a couple months ago as far as evaluating the options. One thing that we are recommending regarding the liquor license for the historic West Bend Theater is that we hold off on issuing that and for 2 reasons. One is I do not anticipate that they will be open within the 4 months that we have in our code that you're supposed to be open within pulling a license. So that could cause issues. Secondly, there is the ability under the state statutes to issue what's called an above quota license, and they would qualify for that. So they would not be forced to pull a reserve license for it. It would be the normal fee as a regular liquor license. And they would qualify as an opera house or theater for the performing arts operated by a nonprofit organization. So that would be preferable because that would allow us to maintain the regular standard liquor licenses for other establishments that are bringing new business to the city.
So in the next agenda item, we really don't have 2 competing interests for that liquor license. We don't have the theater and the garden lounge. It's really the...
Not if you act based on our recommendation to basically not act on the theaters at this point and to act on the garden lounge one. And I believe, did you discuss that with Mr. Turinas?
Yes, I did call him today.
Okay, did he have any objections to that?
He did not, and he did say that they were a nonprofit.
Okay, good. So there's no action on item number 2 then. Stephanie, is there any other action on 2, or was that just an FYI?
The action should be on 3.
Okay.
That's where they actually applied for the license. The number 2 is just all the applications, which also included the charcoal grill, but they did not complete the guidelines. Only the 2 entities completed the guidelines.
Okay, then item number 3 is a recommendation to council regarding a non-reserve applicant's guideline, guideline responses for the Garden Lounge LLC. Did I read that properly?
That's correct. I'll make a motion to approve the guidelines for the Garden Lounge LLC for the non-reserve license.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. And item number 4 is approval of operators' licenses with the list in our packet.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? That motion carries. And being no further business before the licensing board, I adjourn. Sure. Let's jump ahead to calling the City of West Bend Common Council for Monday, October 1st, 2018 to order. Starting off with item number 1 is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of September 24th.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item number 2 is a resolution honoring Deputy Chief Charles Beistel. Deputy Chief, if you could step up to the microphone, please, so your kids can get a good look at you. I had to ask who Charles is. I guess that's his formal name. I think most folks know him as Chuck, but for the purposes of this resolution, we'll call him Charles. It reads, whereas Charles Beistel began his service with the West Bend Fire Department as a career firefighter and emergency medical technician in 1993. He began advancing through the department in 1998, being promoted to motor pump operator in 1999 to lieutenant, and in 2013 to battalion chief. In 2016, he was appointed to his current position as deputy chief. And whereas, in his dedication and commitment to the community, Charles Beistel has continued his education, becoming state certified as an emergency services instructor and earning certifications as a CPR instructor, underground and above ground tank inspector, and as a driver operator of pumper and aerial vehicles. He's also a member of the Washington County Dive Rescue Team. He serves on several boards and committees and volunteers throughout the community. And whereas Charles Beistel has served the people of the city of West Bend and surrounding communities faithfully and well, he has thus earned the recognition due an exemplary public employee. Therefore, be it resolved that the city of West Bend honors Deputy Chief Charles Beistel and expresses its deep appreciation for his 25 years of loyal, dedicated service. Congratulations and thank you, Deputy Chief. I would entertain a motion to enter this resolution into the record.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to tell the television? No, you're good. All right. Item number 3 is a proclamation recognizing 2018 Fire Prevention Week. And that reads, whereas in 2016, U.S. fire departments responded to 352,000 home fires, in which 2,735 people were killed. Every 4 out of 5 home fire deaths result in properties without working smoke detectors or alarms. Whereas the City of West Bend first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. In the 2018 Fire Prevention Week theme, Look, Listen, Learn, Be Aware, Fire Can Happen Anywhere, effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to increase our safety from fire. And whereas on Saturday, October 6th, from 10 a.m. through 1 p.m., the City of West Bend Fire Department is holding an open house event at Station Number 1, located at 325 North 8th Avenue, to further educate our citizens. Therefore, I, Craig K. Sedonico, Mayor of the City of West Bend, do hereby proclaim October 7th through the 13th, 2018, as Fire Prevention Week throughout this community, and I urge all the people of the City of West Bend to practice fire safety and to participate in the public safety activities and efforts of the City of West Bend Fire and Emergency Services during Fire Prevention Week 2018. Thank you very much to our fire department for hosting this event and for making sure that we are all properly educated. And moving ahead to item number 4 is 2018 Fire Department Citizen Appreciation Awards, and I believe Chief Kudek and Deputy Chief Beistel will be handling those festivities.
If we can have Deputy Jilling and Josh Harder up to the front over by the chief, please. We give out these awards during Fire Prevention Month every year, and we have 2 separate incidents that we'll be recognizing this year. Deputy Jilling, Deputy Dexter, who cannot be here tonight, he's at a conference, and Josh Harder. On December 20th, 2017, Deputies Jilling and Dexter were en route to serve a warrant when they noticed an unusual amount of dark-colored smoke coming from a residence in the area. Upon investigation, they found a dark-colored smoke originating from the rear of the residence. Already on scene was Josh Harder, a volunteer firefighter from Kewaskum, who works in the area and saw smoke himself. He stated that he had already called 911 and was attempting to alert the occupants. Deputies and Mr. Harder attempted to alert residents who were not home. They also used extinguishers to attempt to put out the fire. Through the efforts of all individuals involved, they helped reduce the property damage by early notification of the fire department and deputies using their extinguishers. With their efforts, they also saved the lives of family pets inside the house that were later rescued by the fire department. So with that, fire department and the city of West Bend says thank you very much. Mr. Steve Eklund, can you please go to the front now? On Monday, January 8th, 2018, Steve Eklund and his wife were taking down their artificial Christmas tree when it began to smoke. It gave off a choking electrical smell which filled the room. He unplugged the tree, which took away any further hazard. He contacted the fire department after investigating and found the LED wiring system had failed and began to overheat. He brought his findings and the tree to the fire station and reported it. All information was passed on to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission. Mr. Eklund was willing to put in the extra interest and effort to try to make sure this doesn't happen to somebody else. If this would have happened during night or other times when adults weren't right there, I believe it would have been worse results, possibly even fatal. So with that, the West Bend Fire Department and the City of West Bend, thank you for your extra efforts.
Thanks again to all those involved in helping to keep West Bend safe. And with that, we will recess the Common Council meeting over to Finance.
Thanks, Craig. I'd like to call to order the October 1st Finance Committee meeting. We have 7 items on the agenda. Item number 1 is the approval of the minutes of the September 24th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion carries. Item number 2 is a mutual aid reimbursement for the Cedarburg Strawberry Festival with a presentation by Chief Moyler. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening. This request actually came in from the Cedarburg Police Department to provide some mutual aid assistance from our police department for a festival that they had. The festival agreed to reimburse us for that. That check was deposited originally in the city, and we're asking that money be moved over to the police department overtime expense account, which is where the money came from to provide that service.
Excellent.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion carries. Item number 3 is a resolution increasing appropriations for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation Traffic Grant Reimbursement. Again, Chief Moyler.
Okay, this is a grant. We have received money in the past from this as a traffic grant from the state of Wisconsin Department of Transportation. Just to explain, a little different this year than in the past. This grant is moved around by agreement of the chiefs in the state or in the county to administer this. These are county grants. So we administered it this last year. So we're asking that 2015 and some odd cents be put into the police department's overtime expense account, which is where that money came from. And then the remainder of that money would go into our special purpose account as we have to distribute that money to German and Hartford, who also participated in this grant. So it's in the past, other departments have done it, and then we've received money. So that's why you have the additional note this year.
Excellent. Any comments or questions for Chief? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion carries. Thanks,
Thank you.
Chief. Item number 4 is a decision regarding claim against the city by Maureen Lorette. This is just our standard process.
Motion to deny. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion carries. Item number 5 is a resolution transferring facade improvement grant funds from the bid fund to the general fund. This is just simply, like it says, transferring funds to the correct account so that they can be dispersed for the facade.
Motion approved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion carries. Item number 6 is a resolution to accept terms and donation for the sports court with a presentation by Craig Hepner. Good evening, Craig.
Good evening. Last week I gave an introduction to this project, and tonight we're asking the council to accept the terms and the donation for the sports court at Regner Park. This is a gift by West Bend Mutual Insurance Company and the Milwaukee Bucks, totaling of $150,000 that are giving to the city of West Bend to have this developed. It'll be used primarily by the Boys and Girls Club and the West Bend Parks and Recreation Division. And it basically will consist of a basketball court and volleyball court with six basketball hoops, volleyball nets, everything that comes with it, some fencing behind it, and some netting in between. And so tonight we're asking for acceptance of the gift, and also that the city would agree to signing and submitting the term sheet as presented. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, Craig.
Craig, I just had one question from a constituent regarding volleyball, pickleball. Will there ultimately, on nights and weekends, will there be a schedule or a calendar out when the volleyball net's up versus when a pickleball net is up? How will that?
Yeah, the way the system actually is set up, it'll be on a set of poles with net that can be adjusted at 3 different heights. So it could be volleyball, badminton, or pickleball.
That
So
answers
that'll-
that question.
Yeah,
Cool. Thanks.
That's a great system. I hadn't heard of it, so that's what the setup is.
Yes, Steve.
One thing that you told us in the Park and Recs Commission, there was also an agreement made that if there's any overruns in building or whatever the process is, that the Bucks have agreed to cover all the overruns.
Correct. Their budget is $150,000, but if anything, there was cost overruns on the actual project, the Milwaukee Bucks will be covering anything above it.
Excellent.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That motion carries. Thank you to
Thank
the
you.
Milwaukee Bucks and to West Bend Mutual for their generous donation. And item number 7, presentation of the preliminary 2019 operating budget. Presentation by Jay Shambo. Good evening, Jay.
Good evening. Exciting time to talk about the budget again. 2019 operating budget before you. You do have it attached to your packet, so if you're looking at your iPad, you can scroll through that, and for anybody interested out there, it's available in that manner as well. And you also have a hard copy in front of you if you have any specific questions. I'm not going to walk through the entire document by any means, but I just want to start out with some budget highlights. I did hand out a one-page sheet that you should have at your place as well. First, though, starting with some thank yous. Thank you to the department heads who took the budget creation process very seriously, had some critical conversations along the way. Thank you to Carrie Winkelbauer, who took the lead. Again, this is the second budget that Carrie has taken the lead with regarding budget creation and formation and all that good stuff. Lots of hard work and extra hours went in by her on the creation of this document, and I am certainly appreciative of that. We did have some conversations that led to reductions and increases within the budget throughout meeting with the department heads. You can see health insurance, starting out at the top, has a pretty significant increase, a 9.79 proposed increase. That's due to a couple of reasons. One, we're self-insured, so when we have a couple of bad years regarding health insurance claims, the number to increase from that, to make up from that, is more significant. Costs are going up in general. And then if you recall, last year in our budget, 2018 budget, we did not increase health insurance by a significant amount. We increased it at a number less than 2%. So making up for some lost ground in the health insurance increase, so that's at 9.79. Net new construction went up 1.2%, or roughly $32 million. for this budget year. It allows for, according to the levy limit formula, an increase of $289,000. Of that $289,000, the budget estimate, and I'll talk about the estimate and proposed budget several times throughout our discussion tonight, and Carrie would like me to stress that as well, because some numbers aren't in yet, and some numbers are still moving a bit. But we're using about 75% of that $289,000 from the levy limit. So we're not taxing to the max for budget year 2019. And we'll talk a little bit in a while whether that would even be prudent to do that or not if we had the ability to do so. Instructions stayed the same. We did add 2 specific meeting opportunities for the council. The July 9th meeting with some budget goals that were talked about at the time, trying to stay within a 2% increase, and then also the Elders TIF and debt presentation when we had Phil here to give some additional information on that at the July 23rd meeting. We did have meetings with all of the general fund department heads. Those were completed just recently, September 14th. So there were a lot of meetings that occurred that week, and then in the follow-up weeks with department heads talking about some adjustments that were needed to be made to their budgets. There is the addition of a full-time officer included in this budget, and it's predominantly funded by the school district. Lots of conversations between the chief and the school district. The intent of that officer is to provide additional assistance at the school. So another school resource officer, we have currently 3, and by the addition of this officer, that would bring that number up to 4 officers dedicated to the school. If there's questions or comments about that, the chief can certainly address that addition. We are eliminating the held open position in the engineering department with this proposed budget. We've had a position that was added in 2016, held open since then. So we had an employee in that position for just a brief amount of time. The position was created in 16, it was filled, and then the individual departed. And at that time, Max and I talked about holding it open for budget year 2017, did so again for budget year 2018, and now had the critical conversation about having it removed. Certainly it could be added back if and when we feel like it's warranted from a workload standpoint within engineering. Max and Emily are certainly busy within their department and were interested in the filling of that position, but from a organization-wide standpoint felt that it was a position that we could eliminate from the org chart. Similarly, in finance, there was a retired position in finance that we had held open in 2018. Many conversations with Carrie and having some part-time individuals coming down to her department from other offices to help out in workload need. We struggled with that a bit, and so we're proposing to replace it with a 12-hour-a-week position, so significantly reducing from a full-time FTE down to 12 hours per week, a very part-time position moving forward. We do have a 2% merit increase included for all employees in the 2019 proposed budget. There is no fund balance that's needed to be applied, so this is a balanced budget that's before you. Adjustments made, I shared with you that we met with departments and had some adjustments that were made to the budget requests that came in. Those totaled $505,000 as of right now. And that number will move a little bit before the November meeting where we come before the public hearing with the final budget. It'll move with these next couple of numbers as well. So the contingency is currently at $56,000. We probably would like to see that get closer to $100,000 moving into a budget year. That's still a really small amount as far as percent of total budget. But at this time, it's at $56,000. Our proposed tax rate, probably one of the items that most individuals are interested in, is what's the tax rate going to be. We've been at 851 for a long time in West Bend and had that as a multi-year budget goal. With the increase in overall property taxes assessed value going up 12.4%, the rate was going to come down to something. So this estimate of 7.76, in one of my emails to you, I might have used the number 772, 773. That number is moving as we're finalizing the budget. So the rate that we're estimating at this time is 776, a significant reduction, but still an overall small tax increase based on the assessed value increase of people's homes. And we can talk through some examples of that. I included one in an email to you as far as an example of a property that went up exactly 12%. The budget book's been prepared in GFOA standards. We received the award last year. We received some feedback in addition to the award. And so Carrie and her team took that feedback and tried to incorporate those suggestions into this budget year and make it even better and position us to receive the award again in 2019. Increased interest revenue as our fund balance goes up, and you can see that there's a footnote at the bottom of your sheet that indicates our fund balance is up to 25.11%. We're going to have, and interest rates continue to climb a little bit. We're going to have a little more interest revenue to include. State debt collection number increasing by 52,000. That reflects the state debt collection program, SDC program, as Carrie calls it. Her staff has done a great job of recouping some of those past write-off amounts that we've had, specifically in our ambulance emergency medical service area. So we're trying to recognize that and estimate another 52,000 increase for 2019. So good work to all pursuing those numbers that are due us. We have some risk in the budget as well, so this SALT usage depicts some risk. We hopefully will be able to lower that risk by the time we talk again. Carrie and I reduced the amount that Doug requested by 596 tons of salt. Doug and his team also talk a lot about, and so does Max and Mark and others within the organization, about the use of salt within the city and the chloride use. So there's lots of individuals and state organizations that are encouraging us to use less salt. So whether we're able to keep this number at 596 reduced or not, or can put some back in there, we'll know in the next few weeks. Shared revenue was up a tiny bit. Expenditure restraint was down, so the net of that is 51,000 lower than what we received the current year. And then I've already shared it's a preliminary budget, so the final revenue numbers on state transportation aid and computer aid aren't in as of yet, and we're hoping for the best, but that's what could move that number, that 776 number in the end, up or down a tiny bit. And then this budget does, and it was not only was it a proper budget from a fiscally responsible budget to create, but it was also a budget from maintaining the expenditure restraint funding for year 2020. It's always prospective. We couldn't raise our expenses much in order to continue to maintain that expenditure restraint funding. And that's a big number. It's a $546,000 number currently. So we definitely want to maintain that. And this budget, I'm proud to report, does that. I know that was fast on a lot of numbers, but if there are any questions or if we should go through the example now, I'll follow your lead and answer any questions that you want. There's a handful of department heads in the room that can do the same if there's any specific questions for their budgets.
Thanks, Jay. When it talks about the no final revenue numbers for the state transportation and computer aid, when are we anticipating those numbers?
In the next few weeks, we expect them.
Okay. Has there been any indication if it's going to go up, down, stay the same? Or everybody's playing their best poker face?
Yeah, more so that.
Okay.
We don't know. Last year, they went up just a tiny bit in transportation aids.
Okay. And then for the health insurance proposal up to 9.79, did having the on-site clinic help that, keep that at a lower rate?
Right, help keep it less than something greater than 9.79. I would say that's true, and we have talked about having a presentation come before you. Probably at the next meeting or so, we'll have somebody from Quad Med come in and report the actual numbers now that we're a year into the system. Absolutely, our employees have really embraced the clinic and have the usage you'll see when the report comes in has been high, positive.
Excellent. Yes, Craig.
Jay, I mentioned this to you earlier, that I've had probably a dozen people come up to me out and about at the grocery store, wherever, and say, hey, great, my home value went up 8%, 10%, 12%. does that mean my taxes are going to go up that much? And I think if you did run through a scenario of the median family home here in West Bend, what it was worth, what it is worth now, and what that means to an actual, we talk assessed value, we talk rate, but what is the check people are actually cutting? If you could run through that example, it
Sure.
probably would help us all.
So last year, we reported 180,000 was our average assessed house. That times $8.51, which is our current rate for 2018, results in the city tax of $1,532, $1,532. That house going up 12.4% from the average home increase, that average property increase within the city for the reval, equates to a $201,600 home. So 180 goes up to 201,600 times a approximate rate of 776 results in $1,564, or a $32 increase in taxes, which is a 2% increase over 2018. So 12% increase in assessed value equates to a 2% increase in actual city portion of the tax. Is that?
That's exactly it, and CPI index is about 2.6%. This is something new for myself, new for this council. Again, I echo Jay's sentiment that it's a prudent way to be communicating what it means. I think if your home goes up 12% in value and you multiply your tax bill, it can be a big number, but we're really trying to temper that. And it also should be said, I know the council understands this, staff understands it, but for the folks watching at home, this is just the city portion of your tax bill. We don't control what the school district or the county or MPTC does with their tax rate. So your home value goes up 12%. Unless they reduce their rates also, you will see some variation in their line item. So if you look at your tax bill real close, there'll be 4 line items on there: the city, the school district, the county, and MPTC. We, of course, just control the city's portion of that.
Could I jump in, Rich, just to maybe further clarify the assessed value and what your tax rate is going to go up? So that's the purest example. If your home went up 12%, which is what the average was of all properties going up. Now, if your home went up at a lower level than that, so if it went up something less than 12%, or if it actually went down, there are some homes in some entire neighborhoods, the assessor's office tells me that went down in value, your taxes will be flat or potentially even go down the city portion. Now, converse, that is true of that as well. So if your home went up at a greater percentage than 12%, if your home went up 20%, your percent tax increase for the city of West Bend portion is going to be larger than 2% as well. I just don't want to give everybody the impression that it's going to be just a 2% increase if your home went up more than that.
Any questions for Jay at all? Yes, Mike?
Sure. So in maybe a little bit simpler terms, dollar for dollar, that's $7.76 per $100 of valuation. $1,000, I'm sorry. Yep. So the 2% number can go up and down based on what your actual assessment is, but dollar per dollar, it's $7.76 per $1,000 of assessed value.
Correct. So I will just make one clarification. As I was going through, I had this question, and I asked Jay right before the meeting here. So if you turn to page 13, and let's say you're looking at the Common Council salaries, I looked at the 2018 budget, and then I looked at the column that said 2019, and there was a $7,000 increase, to which I said, boy, when are we getting that raise? But I was wrong. You need to look at that general fund. So you're looking at the 2018 budget and the general fund column, and that will give you the apples to apples comparison for each of the line areas that we're looking at. So hopefully that'll save Jay a few phone calls, and maybe Carrie as well. So, yes, Craig.
Got one more comment if no one else does. I also often get the question from some of you folks and from people on the street is, how can we keep holding our budget relatively flat? Now, we are seeing a bit of an increase this year, but how can we hold it relatively flat? And the easy answer is that our debt is down over 40%. You've heard me, you've heard us, and we've had presentations on this, but in 2011, the city had over $80 million in debt. It should be in 2019 that we break below the $50 million number. So all the principal and interest payments that we were making on that extra 30 or 32 or $35 million, those are still in the budget. We're able to invest those in other areas. So while it may feel like we're not increasing our revenue, we're really not, but we have more breathing room within our budget to invest in things like capital projects, invest in things like new fire trucks in our roads, et cetera. Also, I'd like to preempt Jay and I and Rich and Ehlers and Andrew have met a couple of times regarding a rollout in the first quarter to the council. We need to have a few more numbers to get correct and make sure they're accurate, but a new way of funding capital projects and a new way of investing more in roads. So I'm confident, I think the gang is pretty confident that we're going to be able to significantly address our road issues. I'll call it independent of the budget, independent of increasing taxes. And it's going to be a direct result of the hard work we've done over the last 6 or 7 or 8 years of reducing debt. So I know it's probably in some of your minds, how are we, what is this budget doing for additional road maintenance, additional road improvements? That's coming. Just hold your breaths just a couple of more months till after the holidays, and I think we'll be prepared probably right after the first of the year to roll that plan out. It's equally as exciting as this budget is.
I agree. Yeah, Mike?
Just a few final clarifications, if you don't mind, Jay. And I know this is a moving target because it is what it is, and we're halfway through. But as a benchmark, typically halfway through the budget cycle, you'd like to see your actual amounts about half of what the budgeted amounts are. And I noticed some larger discrepancies, so I'm just looking for some possible clarification on a few of the line items. And I think you mentioned in your second last bullet point that the final revenue numbers from state and transportation and computer aid have not been figured in there yet. So is that going to be part of that other financing sources under revenues on the general fund budget summary? First page, general fund budget summary. Or page 3, I'm sorry. So right at the bottom of the first revenue column, you've got other financing sources. We've only got an actual number there of about 5,800 with a budget of over 709,000. So it's a considerable shortage of revenue.
Yeah, some of that is timing and specific line item. I can look to Carrie to see if she has the response to it. I think the other thing, and I'm glad you brought it up, Mike, because I think the other thing the council should be aware is as you look, so we added this 2018 actual as of 6/30 just 2 years ago, and when I came I felt it was important to have a check-in halfway through, but it's not a true 6/30 check-in.
Okay.
Because it's so a lot of them lag about a month as far as the expenses and the revenues as you flip through the budget. So note that as you're going through if the numbers seem a little off, and oftentimes when Carrie and I are reviewing the individual departments with department head, but line items with department heads, we'll point at that and then talk, oh yeah, that's right, that's still a month or so off on the halfway through. Carrie, do you have a comment on the?
I wasn't trying to specifically.
I know.
There's a few in here that are within 10 or 15 or 20% of the actual number at the halfway point, but there certainly is some that are really stand out. And so I just wanted to ask about those. Carrie, do you have any input on that?
Yep. So the revenue amounts that we're still waiting on are actually highlighted in yellow, and they're underneath the section, the intergovernmental revenue section. So that's right after the taxes, so it's the second grouping on the revenues. So everything highlighted in yellow, I just used the 2018 budget amounts. So those are the revenue amounts that we're still waiting on.
He's actually specifically asking about the page 3, bottom of the first section, other financing sources, why we've only collected 5,000 to date in other financing sources.
Okay. So the other financing sources, that is the tax from the municipal utility. That's the majority of the funding, and that's the water utility tax equivalent funding. So that's not calculated until the latter end of the year. So that would be the reasoning why that's lower than anticipated.
Perfect. There's a
Any other
few other
questions?
ones, but I assume that they're not typos and they will be corrected as the year moves on, or either the expense or the revenue will come closer to the budget number. I guess one other one that really stuck out to me is this, under the expenses, again on page 3, it's accounts receivable collection agency. It's an expense that we've budgeted over $120,000 for, but we've only spent so far $4,000. So is that still yet to come at the end of this year, or is that something that
Yes.
we've done away with?
No, that is when I present to you guys for the approval for the write-offs. So I will be doing that either at the next meeting or else the November meeting. So that's still to be coming yet.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Jay or Carrie? If not, then I would echo what Jay said. A lot of help, or a lot of thanks to the department heads, to Carrie, to Jay for getting this put together. I guess the last question, Carrie, did he stress the draft part enough for you that, or is there anything else we need to stress?
No, it's good. It's preliminary, so
Okay.
that's good.
Sounds good. All right.
Thanks.
And with that, I will adjourn the Finance Committee.
Thanks, Rich. I'd like to reconvene the Common Council and hit items number 5 through 9 under the consent agenda.
Motion approved. Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item number 10 under agenda items for consideration is our applications for available non-reserve original Class B combination liquor license. Did we eliminate that item? So we don't need item 10. All right. Item 11 is a decision regarding non-reserve applicants' guideline response, and that is for the Garden Lounge LLC.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item 12 is a decision regarding a claim against the city from Maureen Lorette.
Motion and I.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That motion carries. Item number 13 under reports is a report by Alderman Hoogaster regarding the Park and Recreation Commission meeting. Steve?
Okay, we met on the 27th of September. It was pretty much a short meeting. We went over some stuff. The Regner Park Sport Complex that we just talked about tonight, they're going to be starting that in October, and they feel they should be able to get that thing all wrapped up in about a month. Some of the winter and spring program fees for 2019 have gone up a little bit. Nothing really significant, as well as the rental fees out at Lac Lorraine. They accepted 3 donations, one from the Stone Foundation Incorporated for Villa Park revitalization of $3,500, one for the Johnson Family Foundation for Villa Park, $1,500, and Habitat for Humanity, $1,100 for park amenities, and we thank the people for those kind donations. Let's see what else here we got. Some of the fall programs have started. Archery, football, and dance classes. The dance class actually has about 200 people in it, which everybody kind of was surprised at. But apparently it's a very popular program. The Eagle Scout project done by Ryan Gergnitz at Ridge Run, the shelter, he has completed that. So that's all up and ready to go, and we thank him for that. The stumps, they're doing that throughout the Wingate area right now. So far this year, they've done 462 stumps, but they still have a lot to go. The tennis courts down by Regner Park are currently being resurfaced. Those are the ones that we talked about back and forth a couple months ago. Barton Historical Society planted some trees up in the overlook on North Main Street, and we thank them for that. And the last thing we got was a certificate of special senatorial recognition from Senator Ron Johnson, recognizing the city of West Bend as a Ice Age Trail community. And that was presented to the city on September 15th, and I will pass it on to you, Mayor. And that was it.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve? And being no further business before the Common Council, I adjourn. Are there any announcements tonight? I just have one. I believe early voting started, is it today? Today it started for the November 6th election, and how long does that go until?
In-person absentee vote, it started today, and the hours are from 8:30 to 4 p.m. daily until October 31st, and on that Friday, November 1st, in-person absentee will be till 5 p.m.
Super. Get out and vote. Have a good night, everyone.